Call the city council work session to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Monroe.
Present.
Fowler.
Here.
Whitman.
Here.
Stilgren.
Here.
Viney.
Excused.
Jermaine.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
So we have, first off, we'll start on the work session. As you saw, there's 3 items. If you saw on the agendas available at the clerk's desk as well. As we start the meeting, is there any public comment this evening? Any public comment before we get started? And of course, after this meeting, it'll be the regular city council meeting. There'll be opportunities at the conclusion of that meeting for public comment as well. Seeing none, clerk, next item.
The next item on the agenda is the work sessions agenda section. And item 4357, presentation for body worn cameras, in-car cameras, and tasers.
So the first item, Mr. Robinson, any introductions, or I see that Director Tolstead is moving to the podium.
Yes, Your Honor. Director Tolstead would like to present to council his initiative in presentation regarding Axon body-worn cameras, in-car cameras, and taser proposal.
Hello, Mayor, City Council members, Clerk Lavoie. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Chad Tolstead, Director of Public Safety for the City of Monroe. It's a pleasure to be able to come and speak with you tonight. I have had the opportunity to speak with each of you individually regarding this project here, which is a body-worn camera, in-car cameras, and the taser projects more in depth. This is a big project. That's why we're able to spend some time individually, one-on-one, to be able to ask questions and for me to explain the project with you. But to cover some oversight things, the why body-worn cameras, why in-car cameras, in its best practice within law enforcement today. It improves conviction rates. It's what the body-worn camera and in-car cameras capture on there becomes evidence as well. It provides security for both our officers and our citizens. That's what's being captured and recorded is accurate. And it's expected in law enforcement today, whether you work for a major municipality law enforcement or someone like the City of Monroe, this is what's expected within law enforcement today. And why is this meaningful? This trust and legitimacy with our citizens. Citizens are better able to understand police situations when the cameras provide a visual and audio evidence what independently verifies these events of what's occurred. So you can see on that first picture above, you see a blue F-150. And inside that red circle is a driver pointing a gun at the Ohio State Police as it's being pursued after committing murder here in the City of Monroe. Without the in-car cameras processed in there, we lose that critical piece of evidence here. And we have current cameras within our car, and I'll explain to you why the process of moving forward and why we're looking to make a change within our law enforcement here today and use different vendor. The police body-worn cameras improve accountability, and they have lower reports of police misconduct. So a reduction in liability and a reduction in a risk, and it's better for risk mitigation. So why now? So if you remember last year when I presented a CIP project here, we knew this was coming this year, that we're going to have to replace our cameras, continue on, but there was a cost going to be associated with this year. So as I started looking into the camera project, I got met up with Kenny Thomas, who's here with us tonight from Axon, and we began looking into a deeper dive as to what this looked like. He presented to me also that our tasers were going to be out of warranty come June of next year. So our body-worn cameras licenses were going to expire this next 2024, and our tasers were going to go out of service as well. And as we began to look more and more at these projects, we began to see to move by the end of the year would behoove the City of Monroe financially. And also what wasn't in that project last year was the in-car cameras. I thought as a cost-saving measures, that might be a good opportunity for the city to save money. But as we look at the last photograph I showed you, showing the blue F-150, that video, that evidence we would not have captured with just a body-worn camera. More than likely, we would have seen a steering wheel of a police car rather than a suspect pointing a gun at police officers. So how did we approach this project? We didn't go at it solo. I got feedback from my command officers within the police, from the patrol within the police, feedback from within the fire service as well. I'll go over more in depth here with police and information technology, but a shortened version paraphrase of what our IT told me was anything but what you currently have, it would be an improvement. Also, I thank Jake Perry from IT. We had Jake Perry from IT sit in on all of our meetings as well, so he was able to speak, ask IT type questions of the Axon people. Kenny Thomas was on that meeting as well. He brought in some of his specialized people in those areas, and they were able to ask specific questions. And importantly enough, the sheriff's office just went to Axon as well. Jake Perry was able to sit in on those meetings as well and be a part of that process. So now, if we were to move in this direction, also to bring on Axon, our IT department's already signed off and been a part of with the sheriff's office. We're not operating two different systems within the system. Also spoke with Ed Sell, our finance director, who I also appreciate his input in this, and was able to be a part of these meetings as well. Brought him in on a separate meeting so he too could ask the questions concerning the financing of this project. Lastly, our own Matt Buds, and I appreciate his time and efforts on this as well, to review the terms and conditions of this project as well. There was one clarification Matt Buds wanted for this. Axon was able to produce that clarification, or addendum, if you will, to the agreement, and Matt Buds is now said that he is good with the changes that has been made. So what was the feedback that I received from our police and from our information technology? The biggest ones you'll see highlighted in yellow, and those would be like a loss of video. That means the video that was once captured or should have been captured is gone. It's no longer available to us. It cannot be used as evidence, cannot be used to absolve our officers or give an accurate account because it no longer exists. The current software is unstable and unreliable for those reasons. Oftentimes overnight, the system would crash. And for a few days, we lost all sorts of videos and all sorts of body-worn camera video footage as a result of this system. So not only is the software currently failing us, the body-worn cameras, the equipment is failing us as well. The body-worn cameras are reporting randomly shutting off. So an officer is on scene doing their job with a fully charged body-worn camera, and it's randomly shutting off. Unknown what's causing these shutoffs, they're just shutting off. It's also, we have recently started losing audio on our videos. This was a new one for us, where we captured the video, the officers are doing everything they're supposed to do, following policy, and the audio drops off, which also breaks trust and legitimacy with our citizen. It hurts our transparency of facts when we don't have these things. The body-worn cameras often fall off our officers as well, due to, I would say, poor design and how they're mounted to the officers themselves. Well, one of the things that really sticks out to me is our current body-worn cameras, we have a 50% failure rate under 2 years. The cameras we currently have a 1-year warranty on them. So after that 1 year is up, it falls upon us to replace those cameras each time they fail. So if we have 36 cameras within 2 years, we can expect 18 of those cameras to fail. And at what time and during what incidents will they fail? So at this time, I'll have Kenny Thomas come up. Kenny Thomas came in here. He's also brought a couple engineers with him as well to give a deeper dive into some of the products I did an overview with. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Kenny.
Great, thank you. All right. How about that? There we go. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Thanks for having us. My name is Kenny Thomas. This is Emma and Jasmine, a couple of our solutions engineers with Axon. I've been working with Director Tolstead here now since feels like beginning of the summer, maybe the spring. And I just want to commend the director and all the other members I've been able to work with so far. It's been an absolute joy. He's honestly made this very easy on my team by doing his homework. My job here is to educate really and get you guys in the best position possible. Give you a little background on myself. I've been with Axon about 2.5 years now. I started working with the state of Michigan and the state of Indiana at the beginning of this year. Prior to that, I worked with the city of Livonia as a police officer for about 6.5 years before coming to Axon. As I mentioned, Jasmine and Emma are both with me. Emma is local to Michigan and Jasmine is local to Indiana. So I'm going to go through a few things here, talk a little bit about who Axon is, why we're here, and then turn it over to Jasmine to talk to more of the technical side of things, as she is way smarter than me, and that's why she's here to support me. And then I'll come back and I'll talk a little bit about the program that we built out for the city of Monroe, and then I'll open it for questions for all of us at the end. So why Axon? I think what makes Axon very different than a lot of other companies out there is our ecosystem. From front to back, we're covering things like, you may know us previously as Taser. 30 years ago, we started with Taser, right? And everybody's aware of what that word is and what it does, and nobody really wants to experience it. But that's where we got started. Body cameras, and then we get into in-car cameras, and evidence.com, our cloud-based system, which Jasmine will talk a little bit about. A myriad of different products, but we really want to look at the holistic approach for police departments and making their job easier. So again, speaking from an officer's point of view, where I used to be, where I got to use Axon cameras, I can say that using them, it makes that job a lot easier. We've got enough things to really worry about. Wearing a piece of technology, operating an in-car camera, worrying about where my digital evidence is going to go. We want to make this as seamless as possible. And that's where we've really strived and gotten really good at this. I think the other thing that separates us from a lot of other vendors that you're going to see is our customer support. I think, again, we're showing up here in force, but if you were to call any one of our customer support teams 24 hours a day, 365, it's going to be somebody picking up that phone, human being, helping that person through their challenge, whatever may be going on, with multiple levels of support after that. So we've got that 24/7 quick tech to help you out with the challenge you may be facing. But on top of that, you're going to have your account executive, that may be me. And then specifically to agencies of 40 or less sworn, so Monroe down, you're going to have a team of 6 customer success managers that are going to be focused for your department. So if we do have that instance to where, the director has something where a camera may go down, or, got into a fight and this camera's now broken, it's a simple call to this customer success manager, and we're going to RMA that camera within a few days. So what I really love is that customer support aspect of us, and that continuity and open dialogue that we have between the departments and our teams. So again, highlighting sort of where we've gone, where we've been, to where we are now, going all the way back to the early 90s and that M26 Taser, the Axon Body 4 now, which is what we're looking at for Monroe. And what's our goal here? Capture their courtroom, right? We want the officer to be able to go onto the scene, handle that scene, not worry about having to fiddle with this camera on his chest or the camera in the car, capture that whole scene from beginning to end, come back to the station, write the report, and worry as little as possible about these extra steps. And that's really the goal here with Axon's camera systems and evidence.com. And as I talk about courtroom, what we're talking about is the sharing aspect of things, right? We're going to have to where these pieces of evidence are actual pieces of evidence. Gone are the days of where evidence is just tangible pieces. It's now video that we've collected on our body cameras, and how do we make sure those things are secure? So I'm going to turn that over to Jasmine. It's a good segue here for her to talk about a little bit about evidence.com, security of it, and back that up for you. So Jasmine, you want to step up here?
Thanks, Kenny. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for letting me speak today. So evidence.com, kind of as Kenny mentioned, it's our cloud-based solution. So it's where you're going to actually manage all of your digital evidence. So you won't have to worry kind of about that pain point of having an on-premise solution, maintaining servers, things like that. All of your evidence is going to be accessible in one place in the cloud. Our cloud is CJIS compliant, so you're meeting all those federal kind of criminal justice standards. Basically, what CJIS compliance means that it is secure, it's encrypted, so only you are going to have access to that evidence. We're not going to have access to it. It's going to be your unique instance of evidence.com where you can manage, kind of as Kenny mentioned, share out all those pieces of evidence that you need to, whoever needs to see it, like the DA's office, the prosecutor, or even the sheriff's office. You'll be able to easily share evidence with them as well. This is also where all of your body-worn camera videos are going to be automatically uploaded into, and then also your in-car cameras as well. All of the evidence that's recorded through both those devices are automatically going to be pushed into the cloud, so you're not going to have to worry about, downloading anything to a thumb drive, uploading it into a different platform. Kind of relieves a pain point for those officers as well. They don't have to, add extra hours to their shift already. So that's kind of the main point of evidence.com there. One of the other pain points I saw in there was that you're having issues with redaction as well. You have to use a third-party software in order to redact. With evidence.com, everything is going to live in there, so you always maintain that chain of custody. Just as Kenny mentioned, from capture to courtroom, you're going to have all your evidence in one place and be able to show proof that this is original piece of evidence and that we've maintained chain of custody the entire time. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about sort of what we've built out for the city of Monroe. And a lot of you have seen this with executive summary provided to the director earlier, but this is just a brief overview of what we're looking at. This is the officer safety plan for the TASER 10, right? So it's a 5-year program, 36 body-worn cameras, the professional licenses, which are going to cover all the officers and any administrators that need to access this. The hardware refreshes, and this is something that I like to touch on, again, that sort of separates us from others. Again, we're dealing with a piece of technology here, right? So general degradation over time, these guys are out working in the elements. Those cameras are going to get bumps and bruises. We're going to automatically refresh those cameras at the midway point of this contract for no added cost as part of this, okay? These are the Axon Body 4s. If we've gotten to the Axon Body 5 by then, we're going to give Axon Body 5s. It's wherever the latest model is, and it's going to be brand new. That's also going to come at the end of the contract as well. The docking stations, the unlimited storage, third-party storage. Obviously, the TASER 10 is part of this as well. All the hardware is covered for the life of the warranty as well, or for the life of the contract as well. I know it's something the director mentioned currently. It's a pain point is that warranty standard. This is good for the life of this contract here. We're making sure everything's covered. And the final piece here to the body camera and TASER portion is this Axon starter, which again goes back to that customer service aspect of things. This is going to be an on-site training. So we're going to fly somebody out. This is, again, I'm talking separate from the in-car cameras. So we're going to have somebody come out on site, spend a day with the team, whether it's the administrators and the officers or just the administrators of the department, and walk through and ask questions. How do you want this set up? What do you want to see in evidence.com? What do you want your retention standards to be? All these questions this is a major undertaking. We want to make sure there's a white glove service here to make sure it's an easy transition. That person's going to come on site as part of this and help out with that. Looking at the in-car camera portion here, we're looking at outfitting all the vehicles and select number of fire vehicles as well. Again, a 5-year program here. It's going to be unlimited storage. There's going to be automatic license plate reader technology as well integrated into this. And again, this is also receiving that white glove service. So we're going to have a team come out on site, take out the camera system that's in there now, and install our camera system, however the department wants it set up. And that also includes training as well. So as officers are dropping their cars off, coming on to shift, this team that's completing the install is also going to walk them through, here's how you operate the in-car camera system, here's how things are set up, questions, comments, concerns. They're going to be able to address all those, again, in the white glove service that we offer with that. High level on what the program is there, but I will open up questions. Unless, Director, if you want to add anything else before we jump to that.
I can close it out with a couple things.
Yeah, please.
Open it back up.
Please.
So just a couple other things wanted to note that I brought up in previous presentation and I spoke with you all individually about as well. Sorry about that. Was that the cameras themselves and what makes Axon unique is if one officer pulls their taser, activates their taser, it will activate the body-worn camera. They also have holsters available too. If an officer would withdraw their gun, it activates their body-worn camera. Oftentimes, decisions and things that happen occur within split seconds, and the officer may not have time to activate the body-worn camera. These things cover that procedure as well. So you see here for you the breakdown of the pricing there. And where we started at, you look at that number down there a little bit smaller, like $893,000. But by completing this process and project prior to the end of the year, we get some discounts for end of the year pricing. They'll purchase back our tasers as a part of that as well, which is a reduction of about $100,000 if we make a commitment before the end of the year. We also avoid any catalog increases at 13, which are roughly in the 13% range in January 2024 as well. So there is a benefits to making this type of commitment prior to the end of the fiscal year here. And just kind of wrap up, the body-worn cameras, the in-car cameras, and the importance of them, I just can't emphasize enough, that 93% fewer complaints against officers. There's also 59 reduction in use of force in there. The numbers are what the numbers are, which side you take a look at that as why that's occurring. The numbers are what the numbers are on this thing. So it's a very important project, and our citizens here deserve that transparency effect. So when we have these things come up, they know they can count on our equipment. Our officers know they can count on the equipment to work and be reliable. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Brian?
Thank you, Your Honor. You mentioned something about if one of the cameras went down or was broken. Is there any downtime, or do they go back to the station, pick up another camera? How does this work?
Yeah, great question. So the cameras do have the capability to where another officer could select another camera that's on the dock. That's as easy as just utilizing our device manager app to assign another camera to another officer until the camera they have, if it's completely broken and needs to be sent in for a return, does get returned back.
Thank you. And when do they upload? The end of the shift?
The body cameras?
Yes.
Yeah, so the body cameras offload once they get thrown in the dock, and it happens automatically.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. That's all I have. Thank you.
If I may add, Councilman, that the in-car cameras, and please correct me if I'm wrong, in-car upload automatically. They're LTE, so the traffic stops gets completed, they're uploading at that time.
Is there, in the future, possibility of those being uploaded automatically as well, the body cams?
There is, yeah. Do you want to talk to that option a little bit about the body camera offload?
Yeah. So there's actually a couple ways that the body-worn camera can, the video evidence can be uploaded into evidence.com, kind of what Kenny was talking about with the dock. That's the workflow that we recommend, because when they're docked, we're also pushing out those firmware updates, so they're getting updated at that time, and then they're also getting charged. However, if there is a critical incident, for example, each of those body-worn cameras has an embedded SIM card in there. Half of them will have a Verizon SIM, half of them won't have an AT&T SIM, to kind of figure out which one has the better connection. But if there's a critical incident, for example, they can actually upload immediately after that video has been recorded and shoot that up to the cloud via LTE connection. Since you are purchasing Fleet 3 as well, you can also offload via the car's LTE connection too. That one won't be automatic. It'll just kind of connect to that Cradle Point router in the car, and they can select to upload that if they need to via that connection as well. So kind of a few different options. It is something that we are working on. We do have the option to connect to like the station's Wi-Fi if you like to, and that would be an automatic upload in the background. As far as kind of the LTE, though, we want to preserve the battery life on that camera. That's why it's not automatic all the time, though.
Thank you. Just looking for something possibly in the future that might actually be a benefit, more of a benefit if we get these cameras. That's something that we can look forward to possibly. Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions on the presentation? Michelle?
Thank you. If a officer in a vehicle were to go into the water, how waterproof is all the software?
Yeah, I know body cameras are IP67 rated, which iPhones right now are IP68. So we've got numerous videos before recovered from, you can go on YouTube actually and find a couple where officers are in the water doing water recoveries. In-car cameras, I'm not sure of really any data we'd have on that. That'd probably be some deep recovery. Do you have any knowledge of any sort of
Don't
waterproofing?
believe the in-car cameras are going to be rated for water since they are hardwired, and if the car is in the water, it's probably not in a good situation as well. But as Kenny said, those body-worn cameras are water resistant up to like 30 minutes, similar to your iPhone.
Is there a depth on that as well?
I
Or not?
believe it's like 200 meters.
Yeah.
I believe is the depth.
Yeah, I think it averages 200 meters.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions on the presentation or thoughts? Oh, Deb? Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew.
I'm sorry, Director, you had mentioned our current carrier was
I did not specifically, but Provision is who we use.
Provision.
Yes, sir.
And from my understanding and talking to you, you're very confident in the quality of the product that's being offered here today.
That's correct, sir.
You and I had also talked about, this gets into a little bit of an accounting question. Right now, these are going to be funded, these are proposed to be funded through our capital improvements budget. Is that my understanding?
I would defer to the city manager or Ed Sell to where that funding is going to come from.
Mr. Sells?
Hey, Kenny.
How's it going?
Nice to see you live in person.
Yeah.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Ed Sell, Assistant City Manager, Finance Director. Yes, it will be part of this year's capital improvement program. And, it'll be primarily a general fund funded item, but, when we look at the general fund, there's different buckets of money there. So we're, meeting on the CIP in the next 2 weeks and should have whatever is going to be recommended all allocated to the various funding sources. So we haven't said it's from this one or that one yet, but that when we get through that process, we'll know that. So we should know that within, like I said, 2 to 3 weeks. Before I think you're scheduled for a CIP meeting with the planning CPC December 11th or something like that. So that definitely have it before then.
Okay.
All right.
In my conversations with the director, it seems this is a very critical piece of software and hardware, one that our officers are going to be using on a day-to-day basis. And it provides us a lot, not just evidence chain and reliability and transparency with the public, but also employs additional tactical options for our officers, especially in the non-lethal space. So I think it's an important investment to be made, and whether that funding initially needs to come through capital projects or somewhere else, I think in the future, we should think of this more as an operational expense, because I think that going forward, this is a 5-year contract, but I think that going forward, I don't really see a space where we're not using some piece of equipment that's similar to this in the future. And I think that we should probably begin to think about amending the police and fire, because a couple of these are going over to the fire department as well.
All the engines, yes, sir.
Amending their operational budgets to accommodate these expenditures. Now, it's a bit more than I thought that it was going to be, but if that's the cost, that's the cost, and the quality of the product seems to be very high. So we're talking about approximately a cost of about $4,000 per officer per year in additional equipment expenditure. But in the future, as we make those allocations towards the needs of the department, unless there's a reason that we should not, that we should keep it in terms of capital now, I'd be more comfortable moving to an operational model where it's accounted for in that space. But that's my feeling. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
I guess a follow-up that I agree that, we're at a point here with a timeline. We don't make it because of the timeline. To me, it's really about, protection service and risk management. And I think risk management in this field is important in all of our fields, all of our employees, and how we protect not only our employees, but also our citizens. So, and the residents here and those who are visiting. So I think, we have funding from Mr. Sell, at least indicated that while it may not be finalized, they just looked over the amounts that believe that it knows that it can be obtained. Long term, I think it does then get into discussion when we talk about budget and funding and operations. As we saw, it's a 5-year a plan that's being proposed, but, as you get to the end of that, not waiting until the last day, a year or so before, we're starting to have that conversation. I'm not saying we'd wait 5 years either. I think it's a item that's gonna come up in our budget discussions when we look at that and how because while there is some CIP, it's also, as I heard, was general fund, so it does have an impact across all our departments, but sometimes the critical, and I'll call it infrastructure, as in this case, risk management and others, is important to have. I think the product is, as we each had an in-depth informative session here today, it just reinforces that why it's something we should be acting on, and I think then it gets to the time issue and a cost and funding and opportunity to do it with less. So, I'm supportive in what we're talking about. Deb?
Thank you. I really appreciate this, and I think it is very important that we act on this. City Manager Dave, are we able to put this on their agenda for tonight for approval?
Normally, when we have a work session, I usually plan it for the agenda following. However, being that each one of you has been able to have an in-depth review of this project, I have absolutely no objection to adding this item as an item on the council action for today, being that there was no serious questions about the importance and the need. And then when we bring that item up again, you'll have this time between now and then. And if there's something else that you'd like to ask or something else you want clarification, then we can look at it at that time. But I have no objection to pulling this and allowing this to be an amendment to our actual action, council action for tonight.
I'd like to see that happen.
So, that's a conversation council can have, I think, when we get into our regular meeting, because that's where it would be, and have to be opportunities at the beginning of the meeting where there's amendment to the agenda. I know that we have an item, I'll just say it now, that it's going to be requested to be added, that falls to myself on the appointments, and through the week and activities are going on, I'm going to request the council add the appointments to the agenda. And we also have one item that in the discussion with the city manager that we are requesting council to pull from the agenda, and that's the last item on the council agenda under the consent agenda. I'm fumbling here because I want to have the number. And that's on item 4328, the authorization of code enforcement legal action. We received some additional information tonight. There was just some copying that wasn't in the packet, and we need to make sure we have that and review it, and an opportunity for the staff to just kind of review what that item is and clarification, so we don't have an issue, because that's about legal action. We want to make sure we understand the properties and that. So I know I'm going beyond this topic, but so we are going to have some discussion on the agenda, and I guess we could have that discussion at the council meeting if there's an indication of adding it this evening with a second and a vote. And I think Mr. Sells provided the information on the funding aspect. I'll say this: one of the slides that in the presentation was on tonight, for us and for also those that are here or those that are watching, is I appreciate the kind of the methodical process of going to different departments and through the administration, of course, through the police and the fire, getting that input, but then, the finance and knowing, is it possible or is it not? Because of trying to accelerate the vote or discussion and then action on this. And the last, of course, is always the legal. Is it in the languages? And that's why we have a city attorney. So I appreciate that very much being added and shared here tonight again. So other questions or comments for this item? Okay, I don't see any. So I'll say thank you. Thank you for the presentations, and Director, thank you for the time spent with the council, but also the time this evening for all to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Very good. Good day. So we have another item on the, or two more to go in the work session. Yep.
The next item in the work session is item 4367, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Footbridge Rehabilitation Project discussion.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council. Back in 22 and 23, and in the 23-24 capital improvement program budgets, the city has appropriated approximately $1,050,000 in funding for the rehabilitation of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Footbridge that connects St. Mary's Park to the Riverwalk riverfront parking. This bridge was installed in 1988, and although it's still completely safe for people to use it, but I think that we've recognized that this bridge has an opportunity to not only be a better looking pedestrian bridge, but also a symbol of an attraction to our city, to our busy areas of our downtown. And I think that when we came up with our engineering department came up with an excellent design. We hired a design team and Fishbeck Engineers. We went through this, and of course, like everything else that seems to happen this year, everything costs more money than what we estimate. Well, when we put out an RFP, we had 2 responses, and the lowest bid response turns out to be about $580,000 more than what we have previously, appropriated for this project. And in looking at it, I sat down with our finance director, and I sat down with our engineer, and we've looked at this project, and we realized that this is of significant importance to this body, as it was something in your goals and objectives previously. And I think it's something that's important to our citizens, and I think this is something that has been on the priority list of this council for the last couple of years. And I think that I believe that we can finance this still. I sat down with my city engineers with some rescheduling of a road project or something along those lines, or looking at other projects that are going to be in the CIP, particularly with the road funds, because this is eligible for road funding. Anything that's non-critical that we could do this, I think we could do this now, and this is our opportunity to go ahead and it will be on our council action agenda, and I think it's time that we do it. I think it's going to be a magnificent project. I think we could get started on this thing, and I think it's going to lead into also our proposal for our St. Mary's Park project that we'll be working on, trying to get to follow this, because it's kind of a blend right into one project blending into the other. And I think that this is something we need to do. And if you have any questions, our city engineer, Patrick Lewis, is here to answer any of the specific questions regarding the RFP and the awarding of this bid.
I see some comments. I'm just going to look at something here. So I'll take comments or questions from council members. Michelle?
I just want to be refreshed. Did we not have some grant money for this bridge back when, or not? No?
No. Sure, please.
I figure I'll probably be up here at some point anyway.
There was some funding that the DDA has put forward in this project as well, but
Yeah, that's correct. Honorable Mayor and Council, Patrick Lewis, Director of Engineering and Public Services. Yes, the contribution, the outside funding I think you're referring to would be the $100,000 pledged from the DDA for the project. We don't have any outside grant money dedicated besides that.
And with the Downtown Development Authority, when it was presented and discussed and understanding before the bid, so the estimate of cost, their funding was the request regarding the lighting on the bridge, an aspect of that, not necessarily the engineering work or some others. And that's, I won't say it's more aesthetic, because as the city manager said, while it is providing an appearance in that sense, there's also some significant reconstruction work on the south side with a the ramp and the stairs that we know that are currently not functional. Eliminating those stairwell that's not safe, they're in compliant today for ADA. I think that's important, the patching and the ramps, besides the chain link fence that's on there back, 1988 probably looked fine and was reasonable to be used, but I don't think chain link fence is what we have in our community for a variety of reasons. So I think that the decking, we talked about the decking, I think that's come up before. And while it's functional, it's not just falling in as manager said, but it's items that need to be repaired, and how we repair that is to use more synthetic decking, things that are going to last for decades, as opposed to thinking about how we might have to replace wood items. I'm just kind of going down the list with that. That it was on this details for. It's in the fact sheet for anybody to read, but also the cleaning and the painting of the structure. Some of the old material of the lighting from a long time ago was on there. Some of those that was put on for the wire lighting is still there. So it is at a point where it needs to have some things done. But Councilwoman, you're correct. There was the funding was the DDA that musters others. So other questions or thoughts?
I just think it's time to get on this because the prices are only going to go higher, so let's get it done.
Yeah, and I was going to point out too, I mean, that is the unfortunate thing, as we've been saying, Mr. Robinson and I have had this conversation. I wish I had a crystal ball because, there's a lot of federal money that's still floating around out there for large infrastructure projects, including bridges. I can tell you, we advertised this on Mitten. It was out there for over a month, and we had all of the large statewide bridge contractors looked at it. So I know that it was, our reach was out there. It's just they're all so busy with large, multi-million-dollar highway bridges. It's sort of a name your job. And we were fortunate to actually get two prices for this, but I just don't see us getting a better price. Maybe in 2 or 3 years, but I think that overall construction inflation is going to kick in even if there are more available contractors. It still isn't the type of bridge job that the large contractors are terribly interested in because there's a lot of little nuances to it. So I just kind of wanted to assure council that it's not because we didn't have adequate reach to outside contractors. We absolutely did. They all saw it. They just declined to bid.
Other questions or comments? Brian.
Thank you, Your Honor. The roads and trails millage, is there some financing that can come out of that?
Yes, I don't want to get too far afield of my comments here, but I think it was generally understood. We are allowed to use Act 51 dollars for non-motorized uses in general. This one's a bit of a stretch though because it's not immediately adjacent to a roadway. The roads and trails millage was included for projects that are non-motorized in general. So that's an appropriate use of that. So I believe that the bulk of the funding would come from the roads and trails millage. And since we had some street projects planned for next year's capital improvements program, I think we're going to get it by deferring a project from that onto a future year. Fortunately, we've had very strong success in the first 2 to 3 years of the millage, so we're in a lot better shape streetwise than we were at this time in 2020 when it passed. So my belief is that's where the bulk of the funding will come from to complete the funding package. But I'll let Mr. Sell correct me if I'm wrong. Here he comes, so I must be wrong.
You're not wrong. You might as well just get up and say it though. Once again, Ed Sell, he's not wrong. I think the bulk of it is going to come from there. At this point in the game, we've got about $959,000 budgeted, and about $500,000 of that is already coming from the roads and trails millage. The extra amount over what we have in the budget will also come from the roads and trails millage. So, but what Patrick said about deferring projects, I don't think we should be committing ourselves to that. That's why we go through the CIP process, to look at all the projects that are out there and understand what we are capable of funding next year. So while he's thinking defer, I'm thinking let's wait and see. And that's kind of where I'm at on the previous project as well. I want to go through that process and understand where all the projects are and what's been requested and be able to give our best funding package available versus just jumping right in. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we do have this on the agenda for the council meeting, and then Mr. Robinson wanted to bring it forward because we've had multiple discussions, as the sheet shows, from the time for which we've discussed it, and funding been set aside and seeking some funding, but it is on tonight's agenda for council action. So it's good to have the understanding of the funding. I agree. I think that as we get into capital improvements, have those discussions, it's always about prioritization, and that's what we do through our deliberation, our discussion, what's the projects and what's the needs, and then from there, what is the funding? And again, the opportunity for this to move forward, I think is it's appropriate this time. We can get started and not miss, because we had thought about having it and we wanted to do it this past year, but that didn't happen for a variety of reasons. So we're at the point now that it's before us for action later. But any other comments for administration or the staff? Andrew.
Is the Pedestrian and Trails Committee aware of, I would imagine that this $500,000 allocation is a significant part of the allocation that they receive in the year for any of the improvements they want to do. This is going to tie up a lot of those commitments in terms of the plans that they have moving forward. They're aware of this expenditure and how it's going to impact the budget that they have to play with.
I know it was on their agenda that you just had a week ago, Mr. Robinson. I don't know if you or Mr. Vanasecker wants to speak, because he kind of maybe tag team it, because he oversees the committee. And
I love that it's a team effort.
Yeah, it is a team effort. Patrick's the engineer.
There's a lot of cross-pollination of a lot of these things here. Mr. Vanasacker and I were just talking. The Trails Committee doesn't itself have a budget. So it's not as though we're appropriating monies that would be going to them. The Trails Committee, is, to the best of my knowledge, is aware of this project among many other things that are in the hopper. But as far as, we're not taking money from one of their designated projects as of yet. The capital improvements program includes one project that I'm recommending, that's a new sidewalk location that we did run by the Trails Committee. And there is some money that was that we'd already appropriated in previous years, close to $500,000, that was a generalized trail committee or trails development project. And some of that will be used to match the Spark grant for the connecting path between the Loop Trail and downtown. My belief is there's some funding left in there as well that could be appropriated. And the intention behind that money originally was to have that available for matching grants that we would submit and say, there's our local match available. So my belief is that there's still going to be money left, at least to some degree, in that previous line item allocation from past years that they could use if they had a priority project that came up in the next 18 months in that cycle.
Okay. And then I had a question on two of the items in the bid estimate list.
Sure.
That we seem to be a little off on. And I just wanted to get some clarification on those items and why the disparity existed. Because we're not going to match up on everything. There's going to be disparities, but there were two items in particular that I thought just we weren't even close, and I'm just wondering. One of them was the cleaning, and the other was the structures, the REM portions.
Remove portions. Bridge jobs are a little, and we all saw that as well. The day we had bids open, I actually met with Fishbeck, our engineers, and they're the firm that had helped us through three different bridge jobs actually, on Winchester and Rosler Street in the past. And so we have a high degree of confidence in both their design team and their construction management team. They've sent both down, and we kind of went over the bids, looked at the numbers. I hate to say the removed portions of structures is a place where contractors tend to put their profit overhead, that type of thing there, because it's a bit of an abstract number. That represents things like the stairs coming out, like removal of the concrete there, taking down the old wiring for the old lighting system, taking down the old lights, storing those things. Yes, we're off by quite a bit because it's a number that we believe on the design side reflected the actual cost to do the work. I believe what you see in there is a little bit of that's the current cost of doing business.
This is where I'm going to pad the budget to make my money.
Right.
And I'm still going to be the lowest bid, so what are you going to do about it?
As you could see, they were the low bid by over $300,000 as it was. So I think that's a big part of it. And contractors will tend to, and we are careful for this, and we look at this and we stage the payment of those items. But contractors do tend to like to overload the early items, the early pay items. So I think there's a little bit of that in there too. So we don't typically pay 100% of this pay item as soon as they start removing things. But that's what my belief is where that is. And then the cleaning and painting, we were a little flummoxed by that. But when you look at the second low bid, it was the same story. It was a little higher, and some of that is there's a risk there when you've got a bridge over water. So I think as the state regulatory agencies get a little stricter and more tight on what they might do to you if something falls into the river, I think there's a greater degree of containment built in there. There's more safeguards, and I think that's a little bit of the contractor balancing their risk. So, again, everything on here costs more than we wish it did. Everything on here costs more than it did a year or two ago, and we've seen 20 to 30% of inflation on these types of bridge jobs. To Councilwoman Germaini's point, I mean, we thought we were trying to bid this during an ideal window where there's still plenty of capacity for contractors for 2024 jobs, bidding it as early as we could in the fall, and we're finding out they already don't have capacity for 2024. So, knowing that, we could have maybe bid it 3 months ago for a 2024. It's just, a lot of it's just speculation. Contractors are just insanely busy right now, and I think those two items reflect that's where we're going to put our number. This is where we think we want to be, and if we get this job at this price, that'll be fine.
Gotcha. Our default bid window in Mitten is 30 days.
Typically, our minimum bid window that we want to see is 3 weeks. We've kind of upped that to 4 weeks lately, based on a responsible bidder ordinance requirements, because that's the ordinance the council passed called for them to submit their documentation 10 days before bid, which was more of a situation where we wanted to make sure the engineering department had time to review those documents ahead of the bid so that they weren't wasting their time on a bid. On the early season jobs that we did the first year with those, we kind of waived that said, okay, that's fine, just turn it in with your bid. That way we can at least, we have more time for them to prepare it. So we try to have a month whenever we can, and we try to hold to getting it at least before the bid comes in, rather than having the full 10 days, because 10 days is a long time. You have to decide in the first week or two whether you're even going to bid the job. Right. So that's where the 4 weeks has become the default. But we had no questions on the bid. We had no indications that the time wasn't long enough for any of the contractors.
And I think you indicated before that additional time would not lead to additional saturation.
I don't believe so, because I think this is already a 2024 problem. The ARPA, or whatever the equivalent funds for the state agencies are, those have to be spent by September 30th of 2024 for the most part. And there's jobs that are already obligated that may not even be completed until later in 25, as long as the job's obligated. So we're going to be for at least another year, probably as many as 2, in this federal backlog of there's so much money out there, and we haven't increased the contractor pools.
Other questions? Other questions?
Long answer to a relatively short question.
I had highlighted the same items that Councilman Felder did. I noticed in the discrepancies. I appreciate the difference, I should say. So I appreciate the responses. One of the items I know that I've chatted with, from the DDA, because the DDA support from the lighting. I know that this is up for action. And my only comment would be is, the previous years when the lighting was done, it really didn't augment it. And I know today's technology and what at least some of the details that can be seen in the renderings is going to be better than what it was in the past. I know that as we move forward, if this passes, that we have the opportunity to have a conversation with them, because as I always say, lighting is what the community, the council, the DDA is looking for, not what they think it should be. And I'm not saying that's the case, but so I've asked if there's some renderings of what it would look like visually as we move forward. I think would be beneficial. It could be approved, because actually this is one of those collectively with the luminaire and the lighting control system was less than the engineer's estimate. So not much, but somewhat. So just what type it is, what it's going to look like, I think is important before it's all said and done, and what's being illuminated by the lights. So I look forward to that. Some opportunities there. To me, it doesn't deter from being able to have council action this evening. Just an item that I look for as we move forward at working with the company to make sure it's meeting some of the expectations, which I'm sure that it will.
We will certainly, I can get with our consultant and get renderings put together on that. And as I indicated to you earlier today, Mayor, it's going to it would make such a minuscule difference in the pricing, even if we had to mount it in a slightly different way. That's a very, very easy fix and shouldn't involve any more contractor effort.
And I know that there's opportunity also as this moves forward, if approved, that the DDA will have an opportunity to also get the presentation and information, maybe some, I'll just say photos or renderings of what it would look like. And so that they know that there's support's there for what they were looking for too. So other questions? I don't see any. Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, thanks.
So we have one more item here for the work session. Clerk is,
It's item 4362, review of proposed installed public art ordinance.
Mr. Robinson, and Mr. Vanasacker is up to the podium.
Council, I'd like to ask Mr. Vanasacker to be able to explain to you, I know that the public art ordinance has been before you in work sessions before. I think that Mr. Vanasacker and his team and the team in the Economic Development Office have worked really hard to incorporate the ideas and the changes that were brought forth by council. And I think that they're ready to present this to you as the final draft in order to hopefully, as a council action tonight, make it the first reading of this ordinance and scheduling of a public hearing so that then we can start moving forward and get this ordinance completed.
Thank you. Matt?
Awesome. Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Matt Vanasacker, Deputy Director of Economic and Community Development and Neighborhood Services Coordinator. Coming to you tonight with something that's been before you a couple times at this point, both on June 20th and September 5th, and then also previous conversations prior to my time with the city. Goal tonight during the City Council meeting is to review the language with the intention of holding a first reading and then also subsequently scheduling the public hearing for December 4th. On the proposed installed public art ordinance. I just wanted to make a mention as you kind of look through the language. We've put it in ordinance form. I've just put in a proposed chapter number right now as kind of a placeholder just for the flow, but it would be ordinance number 23-004 before you. A couple main changes, first and foremost, in the form of an ordinance. I know we had gone a little bit back and forth on different ordinance policy and the like. Looking at it from our standpoint and taking some of the comments from the last time, on the enforcement end, it makes a little bit more sense to have it in the form of an ordinance rather than a policy. It reads very similar to some of our other ordinances, and specifically under the de-accession portion of this ordinance. What we've done is we've essentially placed the language from our blight ordinance from Chapter 210-5, removal of offending conditions, in that section, just to create some more consistency and flow with the language. So those were some of the main things that we kind of changed and brought before you this evening, but very interested in the comments from council on this and action moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council on the, obviously it's up for the first reading. It'll come back yet again at a public hearing in a second, but that's kind of the start where, again, we've had several conversations about this over the past year, and I'll just start by saying this written in this fashion is I'll say more reassuring. I think it's clear. It kind of gives us a structure to work from as people are coming forward and how they understand exactly what the process is and the time frame. I appreciate the reference to the naming policy that's already in place. I didn't know about the Visual Artists' Rights Act of 1990. I thought that was an interesting item, but that's where the property license the city for purpose of displaying, but also, the artists and all. So I think there's really some good thought to this and structure. I just want to say thank you for that as we come forward, and we'll see how the public hearing goes. I'm sure that might get some additional comments from artists and residents and people that are looking at public art. We've obviously had some success in the past couple of years in public art, but also the structure will help us in how we move forward in a consistent fashion as well. So Any other comments or thoughts? Andrew?
Yes, sir. I just want to follow up on a couple of things. I think some of which I made a point on previously. Apart from deaccession, there are no fees for the application itself. Is that my understanding?
Unless there's one set by council under the standard, I think the fee structure is reset on the first of every year.
Does it reference a fee to be set by council?
Let me look through here. I believe
The only part of the recuperation of costs on behalf of the city I read was in deaccession, but I may have missed something.
Yep. I think it may be in here somewhere. But I think essentially it provides for the option if there is a fee that council would like to see for some of these applications. I know there's a fee for similar review processes, but it's really up to council at that point.
Pardon me?
Motion to set fee at 0 is can
Go ahead.
I know there are deaccession fees, and the reasons for that have been clearly laid out, I think, and I think they follow in with our blight policy, is my understanding. The only point I might have is in the review process, I think I made a point on this last time as well. The artist resume and professional references are included as well, and we've talked in the past about collaborative or amateur projects of non-professional artists. I'm trying to allow those because I think it's still a pertinent thing to have in most cases, but you're going to find those couple that exist in our city right now where it was not performed by a professional artist. Either it was more a collaborative community-based project or something of the sort. And I just want to make sure to make space for those as well. Yep. I'm wondering if we can make what the easiest and smallest change would be that would allow for that. I don't know if the application may include instead of the application shall include, if a simple change of language there, though I understand that has implications on more than just that, on that criteria itself, then that affects everything else that follows. So I think in most cases, it's a pertinent thing to have. I just want to be inclusive in the way that we allow for art to be done within our community. And I think that having it be either through an educational or a collaborative perspective are all good and valid ways of accomplishing that, which don't necessarily fit the standards that we've outlined here. I think I've made that point in the past, and I will continue to make it. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, sir.
I guess my thought is we follow up on that, and I'm open to the discussion, of course, but, being non-professional, maybe it's students, a group is, if there's not some structure, and I guess we might have to delineate what that might include, because otherwise it's open to, I'm an artist, and you may not like my art, but I'm an artist. Here's what I'd like to do too. So I think some structure is good because it gets us in the realm of what meets some of that other requirements or permitting. But I'm open to the conversation of, students, school. We have arts within the schools, and I think there could be space. How we do that and how we define it versus just, I'm an artist today, and then I go from there. So it's worth the conversation as it comes forward. Oh, Mr. Buds.
Your Honor, if I may, just probably to that point, I think it's important to remember that is a criteria that needs to be included in an application, and it says 3 professional references. I'll piggyback a little on Your Honor's comment. Excuse me, if there was an art class and their teacher had a background, would have a resume of some sorts and could provide references on other projects that they've been involved in, I would think that would certainly be something that would be taken into account in the review process. I'm not sure the way that it's worded necessarily precludes those kind of options. It's just part of what's the application process.
Very good. Andrew?
I think that's a perfectly valid position to have, as long as we're comfortable having anything that anyone does in the city be their 4th project.
Be their what, I'm sorry?
Their fourth project, presuming they've had 3 other ones elsewhere.
I understand. I understand now.
So it's not an encompassing space for new people, is I guess what I'm trying to express.
Other comments? Very good. Thanks, Matt. Okay. And since you have further,
No.
Mr. Robinson? Further today?
My only comment on that would be that when it went in here in the application process, like Attorney Buds just explained, an artist's resume, their resume might, this is just for an application process, might be I had 6th grade pottery class, and 3 professional references might be his art teacher, might be a neighbor, might be somebody that's saying, hey, he's a good kid. That's just part of the application process. I think a good example of maybe what Councilman Felder is bringing up is, let's say you have an art teacher that is going to design something that is like a paint by numbers project, because we have seen these at other jurisdictions where somebody projects something up and they section off pieces, and it's kind of a paint by numbers, and then the community comes out and you reach in your hat and draw the number, and that's the part you're going to paint. I think that is well within, and I think that is something that this council and the in the application plan that the Citizens Planning Commission would absolutely, be supportive of. I think it's just the requirement that there is something written down to where if there is, it's not, to the mayor's point, that it's all of a sudden, I think I'm an artist because I want to draw this mural somewhere and don't have any, that's where the whole rendering of what you're going to produce, all that stuff would be important for the Citizens Planning Commission to think. I think it's that language that's in the application process only. I think I don't think that precludes anybody from it doesn't exclude anybody from being able to do this. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I see that space when we talk about a community participation project. Its activity, its event might be during a activity downtown, and and residents and people are walking by, and the opportunity presents itself. Done in a fashion, it could be something that is that community art versus artist art. How we make that work and is again through the application process. So interesting. Other comments?
I have nothing else for the work session this evening.
So there's, I guess the last is if there's other items as time permits. Is there questions from council members? We have a little bit of time here, about 10 minutes or so, regarding the agenda. I think I'll just start by mentioning that I am requesting that a council member amend the agenda to allow the appointments. You did receive the fact sheet and the names and the commissions that are there. And their applications to serve on a board of commission are also included. We have the item, again, that's on the agenda, and it's item
4328.
Thank you. Yeah, 4328 that we'd like to have pulled from the consent agenda to be placed under council action, just for some clarification from staff on that, so we all understand what is going forward on some potential legal action on blight. And then Councilwoman Stilgrave has made a statement of wanting to move forward on the regarding the presentation this evening on body-worn cameras, in-car cameras, and tasers, to move that forward. I anticipated it was going to come forward at the next meeting from the administration, but if the administration has no objections, something for council's consideration as well. Other questions or any other items that for tonight's, as time permits? Andrew?
Yes, 4364, I had some questions on.
Sure. The proposal for MKSK on the updated battlefield zone district, that particular one?
Yes.
Okay. Questions for administration or?
Sure. This is an amendment to our current zoning policy that only applies to this particular overlay district. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, I'm looking to Mr. Robinson or Mr. Cochran. or Mr. Buds, I guess, the city attorney.
This is for the Battlefield District, so it's not an overlay. I just want to be careful that we say that solely, though, to look at the, I'll say, largely about permitted uses and appropriate uses and their conditions in the Battlefield zoning district only.
So we currently have in, I think the item references a Heritage Corridor Master Plan East Corridor Advisory Committee right now. And we had an initial corridor master plan, and then recently, I believe we just issued amendments to that master plan after 5 years. I want to build a foundation of mutual facts.
Look at the timing of that, Your Honor, to make sure that's accurate. I wasn't really prepared to talk about that history here, but if the premise, I think, of where maybe the councilman is going is, will this take into account what is in the master plan for that area? Certainly a general provision of good planning and appropriate zoning ordinance would be, does your zoning ordinance match and follow what you've said things were going to be in the master plan?
Well, to follow up on, so let's say that that's the way that it is. To follow up on the master plan, we essentially know from the master plan then essentially what the plan is on the recommendation of the Corridor Advisory Committee for this site. Is that my understanding? They've established this is what we want to do for the next 5 to 10 years. This is the plan. This is what's gonna happen.
Your Honor, I would say.
So I'm just going to, maybe I'm not tracking here, but it's an acceptance proposal to update to the Battlefield District and the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there's items that are within the Orchard East discussion and plan and that they cross over, it's not an overlay, but how do we make sure that the Battlefield plan is updated from where we started with it? That's kind of what I was looking at it, but.
Well, the zoning for the Battlefield District would lay out all the acceptable uses. And essentially the plan for what we're trying to do with this site is.
So maybe there's other.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, reviewing the Battlefield corridor plan, there's potential for other uses now that may not have been there before, but it can't be in conflict with what's within the districts, either adjoining or within. I don't know if that makes sense for you or not. So, I don't.
Whatever the
know.
plan is, I'm sure it's all very good things, and I'm sure that I would hope that that the current zoning allows for all the things that we want to be done in that plan to be done. In following what the recommendations are of the Corridor Advisory Committee. It just, I'm looking at the cost of the proposal, and essentially we're trying to amend our zoning for this district that we already have a plan for, that is going to allow us to do the things that we already want to do with the district, because we're the ones who are overseeing the zoning. Seems a little,
Your Honor, I think if
contrived.
Director Cochran could come up, I think he could address his question.
Yep. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council. To get to the gist of your point, right now we do need to update the Battlefield District because what is called for, proposed in the master plan is not permitted in the zoning. And so that's one component of what we need to update. And we recently went through this exercise with the Planning Commission and City Council on Huber Drive. When somebody was proposing to open a fitness center, we looked at amending the zoning code or the zoning chapter for that particular district to amend the use. We didn't have to pay a consultant to do that. What we're looking at with this project is not only updating the special and permitted uses. That's a very easy process to follow and something we can do administratively ourselves. But what the Heritage Corridor Master Plan and the Battlefield Zoning District, where they differ, is the regulations to implement the Heritage Corridor Master Plan are not included in the zoning code. So when we think about the particular activity areas of the Heritage Corridor Master Plan, there's 7 of them. We don't have the zoning regulations, so setback, fences, design standards, height restrictions, construction standards. I think I mentioned design standards for each of those different activity areas is not laid out. And what we're looking at is modeling what San Antonio has done along their riverfront. Their riverfront district covers many, many miles, but there's different areas within the riverfront in San Antonio. And each of those activity areas has their own special set of standards related to it. So, for example, in the Heritage Corridor Master Plan, there's an activity area that calls for the rebuilding of the historic River Raisin settlement. The other activity area down where the existing clam digger and marina are more modern visitor amenities like hotels, restaurants, things of that sort. Your zoning regulations for reconstructing a historic settlement are going to be a lot different than hotels, restaurants, marinas, and things of that sort. So what we're contracting with MKSK to do is to help us come up with the standards for each of those 7 activity areas and really diving in the parcels, the vision, and what sort of regulations we need to put in place. Certainly, if it were just updating the uses, we could do that ourselves, no problem. But this is going to be a very a long length of time that it's going to take to work on this project with the Heritage Corridor Advisory Commission and the Planning Commission doing this right along with us.
That does clear up some of my confusion, because given the price that I was looking at and the scope of work that I was assuming, we've done similar projects like this. We have a very capable staff.
Yeah.
I've always thought that that's one of the strengths that the city has to its advantage. We've done a lot of this stuff previously internally and through our existing committee structures, which I have a lot of faith in and would like to delegate to those people as much as possible. These are people from our community who have said, I am passionate about this and I think that I can help, and I think they've done a tremendous job. So there was just a disconnect for me. I'm like, sort of to what you say, we have one district, the 7 activity zones, but in terms of the zoning, my understanding is we've done this ourselves in the past. Why are we paying someone to do it now?
Yeah.
So it's the 7 overlay zones and the regulations we want to play with each of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and concurrently, we're also, our staff, our department is also working on updating the larger zoning ordinance. So since we put this thing into practice since 2020, we've noticed a lot of deficiencies that exist. And so Matt Vanasacker, myself, Caitlin McBriarty, Lauren Bennis, and others, we meet once a week to look at, we've got a list, I think, of about 25 updates that we need to take to the Planning Commission that as we put this into practice. So we're doing that ourselves. We don't need, a consultant or a planning firm to help us with that. But this project, because it is so large, and we're going to be looking at other examples from across the country that are similar to our Heritage Corridor, they're going to help us write those chapters in particular while we focus on all the other ones that are pretty significant and impactful.
Are we, by setting these regulations, in any way tying our hands for changes that may happen down the road? We've certainly amended our Heritage Master Plan in recent years from what it was previously, because the plans change, there's different assets in the community, there's a lot of moving pieces, whatever. I don't want to put us in a position where we're having to set regulations today that are impeding what we're going to try and do in the future and remove some of the flexibility that we may have.
Yeah.
Because my understanding for this particular area in the Battlefield District is a lot of them are either city-owned properties or are owned by or operated by city partners who are working with very closely.
Yeah.
And so I'm not imagining a scenario in which there is numerous violations of what we would consider acceptable uses in the absence of these regulations being in place.
Yeah.
If I promise real hard not to yell at myself for doing the things that I want in the plan to be doing in these areas anyway, why do I need the regulations? Can't we just do it in the absence of this?
Yeah. So it's important that as the city amends its overall master plan every 10 years as well, that we make sure that our zoning regulations match that. So I have a quote from my former boss that I use a lot, that the last perfect law that was ever passed come off a mountain on 2 stone tablets. Certainly the master plan, the zoning ordinance, and others are always living documents based on where we're taking the community in the future and where we need to go to make sure that our ordinances and regulations allow for the vision that the Planning Commission and City Council have set forth. So that's sort of the same thing that we're doing with the 2020 zoning ordinance. We look at the existing land use map, the future land use map, and make sure that our zoning allows for implementation of that. Matt Vanasacker right now is working on the residential strategy, and there's going to be some proposed amendments to the zoning code to allow for more flexibility for residential development in different areas of the city as well, that we'll bring before you, obviously, when that strategy is complete and when we have the recommendations of what we need to update in the zoning code. So I think all of these different documents that guide our work always go hand in hand, and we're always making sure that they walk and talk with each other appropriately.
And I don't begrudge the flexibility of the documents in terms of how we're having to change them for the uses and the plans that we have in the discussions that we're having every day in these committees with what we want to see for these sites.
Yeah.
But I do look suspiciously when there's dollar signs attached to changing the ordinances that we ourselves put into place.
Yeah. Well, and this is certainly a very heavy lift. This project is, if Matt and I and others were to tackle this project ourselves, it's going to take us away from a lot of other projects that we're moving forward. It would probably put on hold the other zoning ordinance amendments that we're working on that benefit the rest of the community. And so by working with folks like MKSK, they're going to be able to do that research for us, help us put those best practices together so that we can bring you the most appropriate, relevant, and current ordinance that we can, and continue the rest of the work that we have to do every day.
Director Cochran.
Yeah.
About 9 minutes, and so if there's no other comments, or if there are, we'll have to do them during the city council meeting. If there's other items that you'd like to have some additional conversation about, to be either poll or during the council action. So with that, it's 7:21, and so we have time before the meeting at this time. Close the work session, and we'll be back by 7:30. Thank you. We'll call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Moore. Felder. Whitman. Steelgrave. Vining.
Excused.
Germaine. Mayor Clark.
Present. I ask we all please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Grant us the strength to manage the challenges ahead and the wisdom to identify opportunities as we strive to serve our community.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, first item, please.
The first item on the agenda is item number 4, approval of regular agenda.
Thank you, and I know from our work session and some information provided, there'll be some adjustments here. City Manager Robinson.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council, I'm requesting that we add, that we pull item 4328 from the consent agenda. And it's the regarding blight. Add that to the council action portion of the agenda, as we have an update in our information for you to give you more accurate information in order to make a decision on that item. I'd also ask that we add the appointments by the mayor to the council action, so that those can be reviewed and presented to you, as well as Councilwoman Steelgrave had asked after the Axon presentation that instead of waiting till the next council action, if we could go ahead and bring this onto this council action in order to approve the Axon project. And I asked that to be added to the action agenda as well.
Okay, so the manager pointed out the 3 items for amendments or additions. Councilwoman Steelgrave?
Yes, I would like to amend the agenda to include a motion from the council item to approve the purchase of the Exxon body cameras, the in-car cameras, and the tasers pursuant to the proposed contract. Support.
Well, we have, that's one item. There's the 2 other items as well. Councilwoman, the appointments and then the removal of 4328 from consent agenda to council action.
Your Honor?
Yes?
We should pull item 4328 when we get to consent agenda.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
No, that's all
Thanks.
right. I missed it too at first. Just need to add appointments to
correct?
boards and commissions in the Axon
Okay.
proposal.
There's a motion by Councilwoman Steelgrave to add to the, under council action, the appointments, and then also to add the Axon project for the body cams, in-car and taser proposal contract. Okay, there's a second by Councilwoman Germaine. Comments or questions? Clerks, please call the roll.
Councilman Lamore? Yes. Felder?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Steelgrave?
Yes.
Germaine? Mayor Clark?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and for approval of payments, the amount should read $1,745,731.68, 1745731.68.
Thank you. Items on the consent agenda. Any items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Councilman, one more.
Yes, Your Honor. I wish to have item number 4328. Council action.
Thank you. Other items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Council, seeing none. Are there any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled for further discussion? And what that means is there's items that are, if not pulled, they'll come and be collectively voted on by council for either passage or not. And the items are on the council agenda, and fact sheets are included with information online. Any items on the consent agenda those present here this evening wish to have pulled and placed under council action? Seeing none, a motion would be in order. Councilman Felder?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that all items on the consent agenda not hold for further discussion be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and resolutions adopted.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilman Lamore, that all items on the consent agenda not pulled for further discussion be accepted, placed on file, and the recommendations carried out. Call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Steelgrave?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is, we have nothing under presentations, communications, or public hearings, so we'll move to council action. The first item is 4344, acceptance of Monroe County Museum System Grant.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Director Cochran up regarding this grant acceptance.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Mark Cochran, Director of Economic and Community Development. I would like to extend my appreciation to the Monroe County Museum System for recommending unanimously to award the city $20,000 to make these necessary repairs to the Sawyer House. We've got a list of improvements that are needed to the Sawyer House that we took a look at in terms of some preservation work that needs to be done. And really the one that rose to the top and was a rather expensive one was repairing multiple windows at the Sawyer House to repair the frame and reglaze and paint the windows as they've fallen into a condition of disrepair recently. And so working with Jeff Green, you may recall, our previous planning director, who remains on staff under contract to work with my office on historic preservation, historic consulting work, as well as working with the mayor, I know, on Woodland Cemetery. But he helped Caitlin McBriarty and my department to put this grant application together, and the museum system looked favorably upon it and offered us $20,000 to move forward with the project. So we did get a few different proposals that was required by the grant application. We got 3 different proposals. And we will have to put them out to bid, and that contract will come before City Council in the future. But tonight's action is just to formally accept the $20,000 application on behalf of the city.
Are there any comments or questions from council regarding the item on the acceptance of the county museum system grant? Seeing none, a motion would be in order. Councilman Felder?
Yes, I had a question about matching requirements.
No matching funds required on this. We do anticipate that the bid will probably come in above $20,000, which we'll look to work with Finance Director Sell on funding that, and that will come before you in the future, the necessary funds. But it'll be complemented primarily majority by the museum.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor,
Councilwoman Germaine?
can I make a motion? Item number 4344, acceptance of Monroe County Museum System Grant. Move to accept the MCMS grant, authorize the city manager to sign the necessary grant agreements, and authorize the assistant city manager, finance director, to amend the budget for the grant acceptance.
Second.
This is a motion by Councilwoman Germaine, supported by Councilman Lamore, on item 4344, acceptance of the Monroe County Museum System Grant. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman?
Yes.
Steelgrave?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Next item, please.
The next item is item 4366, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Footbridge Rehabilitation Bid Award.
Mr. Robinson?
Honor and Honorable Council, we did have this item in our working session today, and I am hoping that as we look at this, that the understanding that this has been a very important, high priority of this council, as well as been a priority of our citizens, this project. And even though that the bid, when we put out for an RFP, did come some $580,000 more than what we had previously budgeted through our CIP project plan over the last 2 years. I believe that in talking with our finance director and assistant city manager, Mr. Sells. I believe that we'll be able to once we realign all of our and we understand, I basically asked them, do we have the money to be able to do this? I trust Mr. Sells exactly what funds they're going to come through, whether it's through the roads fund, Act 51 money, or if it's through the millage. I believe that it's all going to depend on how much money we're going to need, and once we present it within the coming month, the CIP projects our capital improvement projects to the council, and the priority has been decided by the council. At that point in time, I think that'd be the time that we can give a more specific answer exactly what accounts are going to come out and have that accounting for you. However, but I am confident that we do have the money to get this project rolling, and I'd like to take the opportunity and ask you to please approve this project and this bid award for us to move forward on getting this project going over this summer.
Thank you. So is there any comments from council regarding item 4366? Any additional comments? It was on our work session today. There's those that may have not been here or did not are watching now and did not catch the work session. I'd recommend that you take that opportunity to learn about the discussion that was had at council. This is not the first time it's been before us. We've had this multiple times in the past year. Obviously, it was a project that was on discussion for this current year, but circumstances and the RFP and the bidding came to be where it's before us now, and we're trying to get this moved forward as we conclude this year, but also put it on the agenda out of the gate here for 2024. So there's many opportunities that we've had conversation and input from the public and those that have supported this. So if there's no other comments from council, a motion would be in order. Councilwoman Germaini.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item number 4366, Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Footbridge Rehabilitation Bid Award. Move that the contract for the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Footbridge Rehabilitation Project be awarded to Z Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $1,420,455, that a total of $1,500,000 be encumbered to include a 5.5% contingency, and that an increase in the existing professional services contract of up to $30,000 be authorized to Fishbeck Engineers, that $10,000 be set aside for engineering department staffing costs, and the mayor and clerk treasurer be authorized to execute the construction contract on behalf of the city. That the director of engineering and public services be authorized to execute any changes to the professional services agreement, and that the director of finance be authorized to make any necessary budget amendments, including from the Streets and Trails Fund or other fund reserves.
Second.
This is a motion by Councilwoman Germaini, supported by Councilman Lamore on item 4366, the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Footbridge Rehabilitation Bid Award. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Yes. Whitman?
Yes.
Steelgrave?
Yes.
Germaini?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item is item 4363, first reading for ordinance 23-004, installed public art.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Yes, Your Honor, we are asking that we did go over the installed public art ordinance proposal with council during the work session, and we've had on several other work sessions previously. I believe that our economic development team has and our legal, our city attorney has drafted an ordinance that I think would fit the needs and the expressions by this council and by the public that would be important for the regulation and processes to allow those wishing to install public art is clearly defined and in this ordinance. And I'm hoping that the city council will today allow for the first reading of that public hearing and set a public hearing to occur on December 4th agenda and council meeting.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council? If not, motion to for the first reading. Councilman Lamore.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to place ordinance 23-004 on the floor for its first reading and schedule the public hearing and final reading of the ordinance for Monday, December 4th, 2023.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Germaine, that item 4363, the first reading of ordinance 23-004, installed public art, first reading. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman? Steelgrave? Germaine?
Yes.
Mayor Clark? All right. Ordinance 23-004, an ordinance to adopt Chapter 405, installed public art of the Code of the City of Monroe. You're welcome. Ready for the next item?
Yes, next item, please.
The next item will be, receive a number after this meeting, and it is the appointments to boards and commissions.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Robinson, when there's appointments to the, two appointments before the board, I guess I'll say that there's one for the Downtown Development Authority and one for the Bicycle Pedestrian Trails Committee. With current vacancies, these are unexpired terms. The fact sheet as well as the names are were presented to council and will also be on the clerk's website. I'll just, it's recommendations that I'm moving forward, and if there's any comments or questions from council, I'll be glad to answer, or a motion. Councilman Lamore?
Mr. Honor, I just want to make sure I have the pronunciation correct for Joel.
Yes.
His last name is Gutsky?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion.
Please do.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend Joel Gutsky to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Trail Advisory Committee to fill an unexpired term through January 12th, 2026, and also to have Faustino Tino Amaya promoted to the Downtown Development Authority to fill an unexpired term through June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Steelgrave, regarding the appointments, on the number to be inserted later. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman? Steelgrave? Germaine?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is also an item that's being added to the agenda, the Axon proposal, consideration of the Axon proposal and approval of purchase.
Mr. Robinson, any additional information? Just that it's for us?
Your Honor and Council, I think that this is a very, very important project for our public safety. I believe in regards of risk management, transparency, and the ability to build trust with our community, all relies on our variability and us being able to monitor and have available to the public, as well as the advantages to evidence of what actually transpires when there are police and citizen contacts. I think that it creates a level of trust. It allows for checks and balances with the administration of the police department. I think that the company that was here tonight for the work session, Axon, I have had personal experience with Axon doing this exact same project in another jurisdiction in 2021. And I can tell you that some of the questions that you asked during the work session were good questions. And I can tell you that I was impressed with their answers because they are exactly what I saw in the implementation of that company's product in another jurisdiction, with not all of the bells and whistles and the important items that this project is adding. But I'll tell you what, when they say that they have professional services and customer services and a team flies out for the installation and training of our officers and administration in that program, with their cloud-based storage, the entire program, I think, is really, really a vital program for our public safety, and I support it 100%. And I'm asking that this council decides today to approve the funding to us for the Public Safety Department to move forward and procure this equipment and get this going.
Councilman Steelgray?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the purchase of the Axon body cameras, in-car cameras, and tasers pursuant to the proposed contract documents.
There's a motion by Councilman Steelgray, supported by Councilman Lamore regarding the item on the Axon body cameras, in-car cameras, and tasers. Any final comments from council? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Whitman? Steelgrave? Jermaine?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes. And next item, please.
Final item I have under council action is item 4328, which was from the consent agenda. It's authorization for code enforcement legal action.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, I know this item was pulled just for some clarifications and some additional information.
Yes, there's some clarifications and information that is different than what was in the packet to council. And Director Cochran has that information in order to provide you with the most updated information on these properties so that you can base your decision in council action.
Cochran.
Good evening again. Good evening again. I will apologize for the administrative error in tonight's agenda packet. There are 3 properties that we are asking for legal enforcement permission from you to proceed with. The 3 properties are 511 South Rossler, 35 East Front Street, and 511 West Front Street. But if you look at the attachments for the blight tracker that was included in this evening's agenda, while they all 3 had different file names, they were all for 511 West Front Street. And so on the dais this evening when you came, and the clerk also has a copy, are the blight tracker worksheets that we always provide you when we ask for legal enforcement. The ones at your seats tonight are for 511 South Rossler and 35 East Front Street. You can see for 511 South Rossler that the first notice they received was on June 7th of 2022. The first civil infraction was sent on June 21st, 2022, last year. And the second civil infraction was sent on 7/5/2022. And the blighted condition at that property has not been addressed, abated, or we have not heard from that property owner in spite of the multiple attempts by the department. And then on 35 East Front Street, they received their first notice on July 10th, 2023. The first civil infraction was sent on July 26, 2023, and the second civil infraction was sent on October 6, 2023. And the condition on this property has also not been abated, cleared up, and we have not had any productive dialogue with that property owner as well. And in the fact sheet tonight, it does, there is a line that there was also a fire in October of 2022 that added to the current blight situation at this property. That was left in there by mistake as carry forward from a previous agenda item. So there was no fire at any of these properties in October of 2022. So we just wanted to make sure all of this was clear for your consideration this evening. But also, in spite of this error, I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight and remind you about the blight tracker that's on the city's website. Weekly or bi-weekly now, the city's blight team meets to address or review all of the properties that have come forward and we have not had resolution on. And after a property receives a second infraction, civil infraction, it goes on the blight tracker, which is the public website where somebody can track where we're at throughout this entire process, from the first courtesy notification letter to when council authorizes us to file a complaint in court, to when the city attorney's office does file a complaint, and carries that process through so the public can review every stage of where their complaint is at in the process. And so that is available on the website. You can see all that information, plus there's also photos of the different infractions as well, so you can review that.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cochran on this item? I appreciate the clarification, and also so it's clear for us, but also for those here. With that, if there's no other questions, a motion would be in order. Councilman Lamore.
Mr. Your Honor, I'll make a motion to authorize City Attorney's Office to proceed filing complaints and pursuing circuit court judgments to enforce blight abatement and/or code enforcement at 511 South Rosser Street, 35 East Front Street, and 511 West Front Street.
Motion by Councilman Lamore, supported by Councilwoman Germaine, regarding the item 4328, the authorization for code enforcement legal action. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
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 Yes. Clerk, next item.
I have no further items this evening, Your Honor.
What's Councilman Lamore?
Thank you, Your Honor. Try to be as brief as possible. Couple of eyesores in the city that I wanted to kind of bring back out here. North Monroe Street, the home on North Monroe Street that was condemned, I believe. Where are we at with that home?
And that's the fire, I believe.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson or Mr. Cochran?
I don't know the precise address. I want to say it's
Yeah.
it's across from the cemetery.
I believe Attorney Buds is actually searching where we're at in that process right now.
Mr. Cocker may also be able to help me because that has gone to the Construction Board of Appeals. No one appeared to contest that that's a property in need of demolition. I believe we're in the process of getting bids and scheduling the demolition. I think Mr. Cochran will have more detail once it gets to that stage.
Yep, good evening. So City Council actually approved the bid for the demolition on this. It was either last meeting or the meeting before that. And so the process that we have to follow, because the city is initiating the demolition, is we have to do the asbestos assessment and abatement. And so that contract is currently being executed and moving forward with the assessment and if there is any abatement that's left, and then the demolition will start. So it should be any day now that property will come down.
Thank the Lord. Okay. One other home on Borges Avenue, the first block in there. I know that's, I don't want to say it's abandoned, but went to auction. Somebody bought it and they basically have left it and uncared for. And I know a lot of the residents have been pretty upset about that as well.
Actually, Councilman, we just actually spoke with an individual from that, and we just researched it actually in the break between the work session and that. And Attorney Buds has said that we have not had a response that has been forwarded to court action. We have not had a response, and I believe that they have a time period in order which to deal with that. Attorney Buds.
Your Honor, so I want to look into that one a little bit more. I know that there was a period of time where that one had, I'll say, exterior items that needed to be addressed. I know the city has taken numerous times where there has been abatement of the long grass under the grass ordinance. Some of the comments that came from a concerned citizen this evening were more about, I'll say, interior to the structure, not outwardly visible, I'll say, things that normally come up on the blight side of things. So that's one where we're going to follow up with the building department and see if there's action that should or could be taken based on the concerns that have been stated about the roof and potential, I'll say, deterioration on the interior. So that's, I'll say, for members of the public, if I may, Your Honor, there are exterior blight. You can view them from the roadway. Here are some issues. We typically handle those on one path. Then are there dangerous problems with the structure? Is it safe to be occupied? That's sort of a separate path. So evaluating under that second path now based on some of what we heard this evening.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And other than that, I just want to wish all of our residents a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the weekend. Thank you.
Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. I certainly is that we've been able to move forward now with our public art ordinance. I'd like to thank Mr. Vanasacker for his work on this project. I think the discussion that we had during the work session was certainly important to be had, and I'm very glad that we're recording all of the meetings, because now when we look back, I think that there was a lot of consensus regarding the intent of the policy that we put forward. So should that come into question in the future, I believe we've laid out our case very well. So thank you to the rest of the council for participating in that discussion with me, and I look forward to discussing a more comprehensive art policy in the future. And I really, I think that this fits in well with what we're doing in terms of goals and objectives, in terms of providing a vision for the vibrancy that we all want to see in our community. That's all I have for this evening. I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving and hope to see you all at the Nutcracker.
Councilwoman Whitman.
I have no comments other than happy Thanksgiving. You know, enjoy your families, and we'll see you next month.
Councilwoman Stilgrave.
I do have a couple comments. What an amazing tree lighting. That was, I think, the best, most well-attended. It was phenomenal, and we have a great staff that we need to thank and recognize for everything they did. Also, Saturday is Small Business Saturday. Please participate and shop local. Also, Santa Claus will be in the igloo on Saturday as well. And I also want to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Germaini.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm very happy about the presentation for the body cameras and the vehicle cameras as well. I think it's going to make everyone accountable, citizens as well, and it's going to be a win-win for everyone. So I'm happy to see that. Very happy about the Martin Luther King Bridge. We've been waiting a while for that. So that's finally proceeding into progress. That's needs a lot of work, but it'll look very nice when it's done. And also, people are enjoying Carnes Park already. I know it hasn't been announced, but there's kids playing in the playground already. And happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your families. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. First, I want to make a comment about the Hometown Holiday Lights, which is our tree lighting. I want to thank the committee that worked so hard on this through the year. Thank the administration, but also all the employees who had a role in that and volunteering, not just from their work and setting things up, but then coming back to volunteer to help with the logistics. And it was a wonderful evening. And others posted photos out on social media and others that showed just how well it was attended. And we had many great compliments. I think that it just continues to grow in the sponsors. There's many sponsors that contributed to make that happen, and some of the new elements, but also just the activities. And received many favorable comments. I know there's some that are posted. So my thanks all the way around, and also for the residents to come down and spend their evening. You know, the partners as well with that, from the County Museum, the River Raisin Center for the Arts, the Monroe Library System at the Dorsch Library, plus the LAT, which supported some rides for students youth, I should say, that just couldn't get here on their own. So with chaperones, and it's great to see the community come together. Great families, great youth, and the food trucks, and on it just goes on. But as Deb said, Councilman Stilgrave, I'm sorry, Small Business Saturday comes up. Please come down and shop as well. And, the Sand and Igloo, the Downtown Monroe Business Network champions that event and activity. Through this holiday season, as we come down and enjoy not just the visual, but of the lights, and families come back into town, or friends do, and they walk throughout the entire season and through January. We remember as we start this, and why we start this before Thanksgiving, is because this is a time for thanks, and how the opportunity that presents itself where you can help somebody else. Think about some other person's needs and how it simply can be, whether it be one of your favorite nonprofits that helps our community in a contribution in that fashion, or just volunteering and helping out. And maybe you see a person that's in need and do that, because that's what Thanksgiving is about. We're thankful for what we have, but also what we can do for others as well. So that's my comments for this evening, and along with all the projects that are moving forward. I thank council's support for that we get started here at the end of the year with projects that we know will definitely be on the project list first out of the gate in 2024. Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, comments?
I just wanted to thank everyone for their participation in the city elections that were a couple of weeks ago now. And city staff, once again, was all hands on deck and all willing to help. So I really appreciate that. And of course, the election inspectors are a huge part of that. That election may be over. The canvassing is finished and all went well. There were no issues with the city election in terms of counts or anything like that. And we're already moving to the February 27th presidential primary. It has officially been scheduled, so it will be February 27th, 2024. And voters in the city of Monroe will begin to see notification related to that election beginning in a couple of weeks, probably the beginning of December, shortly after taxes go out.
Well, I have one final comment, was in my notes here, is I want to welcome and congratulate Councilman-elect Mike Hader, who's with us here this evening, who will be the representative of Precinct 1, as Councilwoman Whitman is not done yet. We still have more work to do, as always, but thanks for being here this evening. Congratulations. City Manager Robinson.
Well, again, in my first comment, I'd like to again talk about how incredible I found the holiday lighting celebration. It was to see the families, to see the characters that were provided from the River Raisin Center for the Arts that were walking around, and to see the different displays and to see the things our sponsor did. The food trucks were great. Everybody's spirit down there was just, it was contagious. I mean, it was, you know, I joked with my wife that, you know, kept telling her it's going to be kind of like a Hallmark movie, although we're not going to fight for 15 minutes at the end and then make up at 2 minutes like every one of those movies. But I did say that, you know, but she got the idea and she agreed. She said it was absolutely beautiful. It was just a great environment to be in. I was very happy to be a part of that and so appreciative of all the hard work that all of our employees here in the city did to make that happen. And it was just incredible. The remaining portions of my comments, I know that Attorney Buds would like to make a statement, and also Mr. Cochran would like to make an announcement as well.
Mr. Buds?
Your Honor, if I may, this is just a comment on some items that City Council has addressed. I'll say you've received information from my office previously. There are a number of what I'll call PFAS-related claims that are pending that have been tentatively settled by 3M and DuPont that require the city to opt out of if they do not wish to participate in those settlements and would seek to retain any claims. Those deadlines are coming up. This is a scenario where if the city does not actively take action to opt out, then we will opt in and participate and potentially receive funds from those settlements. And as has been stated before, it is my recommendation that City Council continue to proceed forward, allow us to submit those claims when the time comes, which would leave the city in a position of being opted into those settlements. That's the position that would happen if there was no action taken, and I just wanted to put that in the public minutes that that was what would occur since no City Council action has been taken to opt out on those.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Cochran?
Councilwoman Germaini, I wanted to follow up on a comment that you made during your councilwoman comments. Carnes Park is open. We did announce it today. Last week, we completed the punch list with the contractors and determined that there was enough of the project that's been substantially completed that we can announce that the folks can officially use the park now. That does mean the playground is open, as you've indicated, and the walking trails are open. However, in keeping with department policy and treatment of all of our parks for winter operations, the restrooms will remain closed through the winter months and reopen in the springtime. We'll install the nets for volleyball, pickleball, and tennis in the spring as well when we put the rest of the nets up. And then the splash pad will be turned on when the warmer months return next year as well. But I would like to ask residents to kindly stay off the grass that was planted late. This season, it hasn't grown in quite yet, but in order to protect it so that it'll come in real nice and in the spring, we'd ask that people please stay on the sidewalks and trails when they enjoy the park. But the lights are on, everything's working, and we hope that folks enjoy it. We do plan to do an official ribbon cutting and opening in the spring as well when all the features are able to be used in its warmer time. So thank you for recognizing that, and we were excited to make that announcement today. I will say too, there is some work that will continue into next year, particularly related to the landscaping. While it was all planted, we do have a warranty period where we'll make sure that everything comes back to life in the spring, and if it doesn't, then it'll get replaced and replanted. But the pavilions are open and folks can use it. So thank you.
One more comment.
Yes, sir.
Because while we were talking, my public safety director would like to address the council in my comment time as well.
Honorable Mayor, City Council members, Chad Tolstead, Director of Public Safety. I tell you, Mark, I have been to Carnes Park. It looks fabulous. Appreciate all the hard work on that. A couple things. The police officers were out at Tim Hortons this last week ringing the bell for Salvation Army. They raised over $1,300, which will all stay here locally. So I want to thank Commander Wall for his efforts in organizing all that. Did a great job. Also, this Wednesday is another time-honored tradition where the city firefighters will be doing Thanksgiving dinners. It is on our Facebook page, but it'll be Wednesday, November 22nd at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and 6 p.m. It'll be at the Oaks of Righteousness at 3rd in Kentucky. We encourage all those to come out who need a meal this Thanksgiving. So, and lastly, thank you again for your support on the Axon project tonight. It's much appreciated.
Anybody else on my staff who wants to talk? So I think we're good. And happy
I see
Thanksgiving.
Mr. Sell started to get up, but he's not. So with that, next is citizens' comments. If there's those present here this evening who wish to make comment, just be mindful of the rules of the chamber. Please come forward, state your name, your jurisdiction of residence, and 3 minutes. So is there any comments from those present here this evening? Yes, sir.
Elliot James, 633 Stone Street. And I hear that Exxon, is that the name of the company that's coming to give the cameras?
Yes, sir.
And all they doing is coming and do the training and putting out the cameras for the police.
Right. It's a contract. We currently have a different company that's in use, but they're kind of coming to age, and this is a product that will not only have the body cameras, but the in-car cameras that's on the dash, as well as it's all encompassed in the training. It is in tasers. It's all about training, but it's also retention of those, how it's going to be stored. It's a better system than it currently is in place, and it will be training for all users. Yes.
Okay, not expecting any problems, but are they going to be responsible for anything that happened after their training, or will it still be on the police department?
Well, I think if there's if all personnel that if there's issues, are you talking about the equipment or personnel?
Personnel.
Okay, so currently within the our collective bargaining agreements and policies on ethics and performance, internally there's issues that come forward with any employee. They go through the administration and to human resources and follow the regular procedures. If there's an incident or an issue that needs to be addressed on performance, whether it be just how the job is done or interactions with the community. Yeah, that's still the same as what we have done in the past.
Will it be on the police?
Yes, it currently is, and it will be as well. This item is really an opportunity to, collect whether it be video and audio in interactions. Absolutely. It's
That's
useful.
all I wanted to know.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, very good. Thanks. Other comments from those present this evening? Yes.
Honorable Mayor and Council, I'm Gloria Rafco, 127 Borges. And I had originally come to talk about 129 Borges, but before the meeting, I was able to talk to Mr. Robinson and Mr. Budd, so that's settled, I hope. But while I'm here, I'd like to make a comment on, I don't know if it's the people up here or the people over here, but the lights this year in the city are beautiful. Everything matches, everything is lit up. It looks gorgeous downtown. And people used to say, well, if we could look like this city or that city. I don't think so anymore. I mean, we need more shops, but the lights are beautiful for Christmas. And I hope it continues to make improvements. And I'd like to take the time to thank for the city, Paula, her years on council, and a couple of them were pretty, she had some medical issues and she still came through and came to the meetings and contributed. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitman will be here for a couple more meetings, and she may be coming to watch us or watching at home. We'll see in the future. Yes. Ms. Raffko, I want to say thank you for the comments on the hometown holiday lights in the downtown. You know, it is about the staff. It is about the sponsors. It is about the not just putting them out in the time frame, but it's really a foundation for our community. This is 3 years now that we've had tree lighting here for many, many years and decades. But the last 3 years is how do we make this environment and kind of some of the culture change and have people that recognize all the good there is in Monroe and how we can come together, everybody that was downtown, for our, not just in the city, but our region as well, and spend the evening. It's turning into one of those items that people are saying we need to go to Monroe for this activity. And so I think it is changing, and I think we have a lot of hard work. I again thank the staff, the sponsors, and the team that's here. I know Clerk Lavoie is very active in that, and the council's support as we continue to move forward. So thank you for the comments. Other comments from those present here this evening? Any final comments from those present? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Lamore to adjourn, supported by Councilman Felder. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Whitman? Steelgrave? Germaine? Mayor Clark?
Yes. And thank you all for being here.